Welcome back to my backyard snack yard. It's Danny here. I'm out in my courtyard with my Chilean guava. This is my favorite one. It's called Bella Berry. It's so beautiful. So perfect name for it. And it lives in an enclosed courtyard, so it has like walls on three sides. It's nice and protected from cold winds. These bushes here, although they're very hardy, they're hardy down to like -10. They do not like getting frozen, and they certainly don't like drying cold winds. And so this one has been trying to bloom for quite a while. It was full of little flower buds, and they were slowly getting fatter and fatter and getting ready to burst open into beautiful bloom. But we've had quite cold weather, so just now they're finally opening, and the smell is just so amazing. They're just so fragrant and gorgeous. Let's look at the insides too. They're really cute on the insides as well. They kind of remind me a little bit of blueberries, like blueberry blossom. They're just quite a bit larger than regular blueberry blossom, I think. But the berries themselves tend to be about the same size as a huge blueberry. They're just very red, at least in this cultivar. So the color does depend on the cultivar, because we have a few others over here. Look, if you can see how big this bush is though, it's enormous. And this is actually kept in a pot. If you look at it, the pot does look quite small for this huge monster. So I'll be needing to repot it again this autumn after I've harvested all the berries, because they are everywhere, as you can see. Just gonna be full of flowers and berries. Over here we have another one. This is a really attractive one, I think, because the foliage just looks so pretty, and when it starts shooting out new foliage, it's really quite pink and gorgeous. The flowers are a little bit more translucent. I've got a few cuttings down here too. I'll just show you closer on a cutting. It's a bit easier to maneuver around. So the flowers on this cultivar here, called Flambeau, are a bit more translucent, but still pretty. You know, you don't really look at the insides that often, but they're still gorgeous. And the berries themselves tend to be white, a bit green, and still sweet, but the flavor is very different. Some people say this one tastes more of cola bottles, that's sweet, whereas the red ones up here tend to taste more of like Hubba Bubba sweets, really, really sweet. They're like little sugar bombs, so yummy. And then, so this one is the Bella Berry. Then we had the Flambeau. They grow so easily from cutting, so I do have quite a few of them now. This one's going to be given as a gift. That's why it's in a random pot. But the other two are in regular pots over here. There they are. And then this guy here, he is a Kapow. So he's meant to be the cultivar that produces the largest berries, the largest Chilean guavas. But I mean, I find that it's pretty much the same size as the Bella Berry. And of course, my Bella Berry is doing a lot better than my poor Kapow was, because he was originally the largest one I had. Then I planted him outside, and it wasn't in as a protected area as these guys live in. So when the winter came, he would get frozen, and I would like try to cover him with blankets after the first year when he nearly died. And the blankets did help, but well, then he got stepped on by a builder, and so he just had a really tough life. So I've had to like cut off lots of him. All these gnarled branches are just actually support branches. I thought they would look interesting, so hopefully he'll grow around it and it'll just look nice. But at the moment it does look a little bit odd. But I like using support sticks just to sort of help them. And I put a little bit of a cage with some string just to sort of keep him up, because these kind of plants, they do actually tend to flop. And so I like to make them go more upright. Otherwise they take a lot of space when I haven't got that much space in my little garden. So yeah, the Kapow is also, he's doing his best to start pushing out some flowers now everywhere actually. Look at those little flower buds. He's actually doing really well. I think we'll have lots of Kapow ones. Yeah, I hadn't looked at him that closely, but yeah, he's got lots of little flower buds. That's really nice. So then honestly, this year we can properly compare the two very similar cultivars, which are Bella Berry and Kapow, and see how they differ. So that'll be really fun. But yeah, I just thought I'd show this to you quickly, that you see how my beautiful Chilean guavas are doing. I just adore these plants. They are my absolute favorites. They're in the myrtle family, and you know, the flowers are always so beautiful, and all the myrtle flowers are always so attractive, I think. So I'll just quickly take you over to another part of the garden where I'm now keeping my collection of cuttings and smaller Chilean guavas or myrtles. So this is my little collection of small cuttings, and they're actually all, I think they're just over a year old now, and so they're pushing out lots of flowers as well. I've actually put them in a very shaded spot. This one's already flowered and now the fruits are starting to come. Cute. So these are all actually bellberry cuttings. And then this one here is a slightly different one. Can you hear the bird rustling over there? We've got so many birds and they always really rustle about. There's a little blackbird down there somewhere in the undergrowth. But yeah, this one here is an Australian myrtle. He's got this wonderful, wonderful foliage. It's super like patterned. Look at this. Isn't it gorgeous? It's like a little heart. They've got little heart-shaped leaves. It looks so pretty. It's really difficult to focus properly. But yeah, you might wonder why I've got them here in the shade. But they prefer that because I did actually overwinter them all in the greenhouse. So the big plants I showed you earlier in the courtyard, they stayed in the courtyard. And apart from the one that was in ground, that was just really suffering the whole time, that I've now dug up and put in the pot. That was the kapow. He now lives in a pot, thankfully. But yeah, so I kept all these guys in the greenhouse and the other ones outside. And so when it got cold and we had like, you know, prediction of frost, I would throw a blanket over the other guys. And because they're in such a good enclosed space with a white wall sort of sucking up any heat that's there, they did so well. Whereas these ones were in the greenhouse and so they also didn't get frozen. And so they did just fine. So the leaves always do tend to be quite pale as they start coming, and then they get darker as they mature. This is a nice looking one too. I like how they branch out. And what I did is when I first got the other ones a few years ago now, I also got some really small plants from a sort of a what's it called, nursery here in the UK that provide really, really small plants that you then grow on yourself. And so this is one of the sort of original Chilean guavas before they've been sort of cultivated. So it's unnamed cultivar. It's just like one that you grew from seed, I suppose. And you can see, it's probably hard to tell, but I can compare it. So if you look here, here is the bellberry with its big leaves, and there are the leaves of the seeded one. So they're just much smaller, which means that when they flower, I think it might be flowering this year. I think I see some tiny flower buds, but time will tell. But when they do flower, then they'll be a lot smaller, the fruits themselves, but it'll still be fun to compare. I do love comparing. And over here, I have some very exciting ones, I think, that I got earlier this year. I showed you in the video, and they are called Myrtiola nummularia. And they're another member of the myrtle family. And they have these little tiny berries, which are very small, but very, very sweet. They're meant to be little sugar bombs, and I have not tried them yet, so I am looking forward to them. And I think they will ripen earlier than the Chilean guavas. The Chilean guavas tend to ripen around, I think it tends to be around October, maybe September. We'll see, depending on the weather, of course. Yeah, and this guy, he is, oh, who is he actually? Ah. I hate when I lose my name tags, but I thought he was a black one. Black Chilean guava, mountain Chilean guava. I think that's what he is. Yes. So he's supposed to be a different one too. Also, again, a smaller leaved one. And he should have some really nice black Chilean guavas as and when he fruits. So I think sometimes what happens is I get birds, they go around and they actually remove my little name tags, so that's not very helpful. But yeah, he is definitely a black one over there. But yeah, so just this is where I keep them all in a nice shaded spot, because as I was trying to say earlier, they didn't like being left in the greenhouse when it started warming up, the weather. They started getting a bit fried. And they really do tend to appreciate being kept moist, I find. Any information I found about them say that they want to be in well-draining soil, but what I find is they want to be moist. So I give them lots and lots of water and don't allow them to dry out. One time I had two standing next to each other, and one of them happened to be in a decorative pot, so it was just actually saturated with water the whole time. I hadn't realized it, and it was just thriving compared to the other one that was left to be a bit thirsty. So that's where I get my opinion from. It's based on that. experience. So there are my lovely, lovely collection. I do love these guys, and I'm so looking forward to them all starting to fruit, so we can really do a big comparison and have a fun feast, a fun Chilean guava or just myrtle in general feast. So thank you guys so much for watching, if you stayed with me, and let me know what you think and which ones you're growing, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.